A widow told a man she was craving a taste of wild game. Han Chong, who had never been with a woman, was instantly overjoyed. He immediately took his detonators up the mountain, and in a secluded part of the woods, he skillfully planted the explosives and set a trap. He fantasized about the widow rushing into his arms after he caught a badger, but before he could get far, a deafening explosion suddenly erupted behind him, followed by a piercing, heart-wrenching scream. Holy shit! Han Chong's heart sank and he bolted back toward the site. The loud blast and the scream also alerted the villagers. When a panting Han Chong reached the scene, what he saw scared him out of his wits. His new neighbor La Hong was lying in a pool of blood. One of his legs was mangled beyond recognition. It was clear he wouldn't survive. It turned out that La Hong had somehow wandered right into Han Chong's trap. The villagers hurriedly carried La Hong back to his house. Lord 6, the most respected elder in the village, took charge, while the other villagers gathered outside buzzing with hushed talk. Terrified, Han Chong's mind went blank as he stood there dazed. But La Hong's mute wife, Hong Xia, remained eerily calm. She quickly shut the door, cutting off all the prying eyes from outside. Dying La Hong didn't even look at his own wounds. Instead, with his last ounce of strength, he glared fiercely at Hong Xia in the corner. He grabbed an axe nearby and hurled it at her, before finally drawing his last breath. Lord 6 checked for a pulse and solemnly announced to Hong Xia, "Child is gone." At the center of this tragedy, the newly widowed Hong Xia showed not a single trace of grief on her face. Suddenly, as if triggered by something, she began pushing all the villagers out of the house like crazy. Then she grabbed a quilt and pressed it hard over her husband's face, his eyes still wide in death. The film's opening quickly and effectively establishes the core conflict. La Hong's death appears to be an accident on the surface, but it is riddled with suspicion. Why would a man with a limp venture so deep into the mountains, to the exact spot where Han Chong set his trap? Hong Xia's abnormal reaction after her husband's death, shutting the door to drive everyone out, and covering her husband's body with a quilt. These are not the typical actions of a grieving wife. They serve as layers of foreshadowing for the subsequent plot twists. That night, several village cadres discussed how to handle this thorny situation. With a new village chief about to take office at this critical juncture, a homicide in the village, if word got out, would not only tarnish the village's reputation, but also cause trouble for both the outgoing and incoming chiefs, in an era when the rule of law was weak to them. The village's reputation was far more important than justice for an outsider. Ultimately, they decided on a private settlement. Citing a village precedent from years ago, they ordered Han Chong's family to pay 20 yuan in compensation. Upon hearing this, Han Chong's father trembled with rage. He already despised his son for being infatuated with the widow Qin Hua all day long. Now, just to get badger oil for that woman, he had actually caused a death, and it would cost him the life savings he had put away for his funeral. He grabbed a wooden stick and began beating Han Chong relentlessly. This incident exposed the survival logic of the village when a death occurs. The village's first instinct is not to call the police, but to negotiate a resolution internally. This reflects a deep-rooted rejection of external authority and a rural governance style that prioritizes collective face. Just like that, the fates of Han Chong and Hong Xia were forcibly tied together. The next day, La Hong's funeral was held in an eerie atmosphere. As the widow, Hong Xia showed not a trace of sorrow. Instead, she put on clean clothes and carefully groomed herself. When the wooden poles of the pallbearers suddenly snapped and the coffin nearly overturned, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly, revealing a fleeting smile. The villagers thought she had lost her mind due to the shock of her husband's death. As shovelful after shovelful of yellow earth covered the coffin, Hong Xia finally broke down. She suddenly grabbed the stones and dirt around her and hurled them fiercely at the coffin, muffled whimpers escaping from her throat. Seeing this, the villagers thought she couldn't bear to part with her husband and came forward to comfort her. That laughter was faint, yet it pierced the heart of every viewer like a needle. Hong Xia's smile is one of the most powerful images in the entire film. A woman who had just lost her husband, a defenseless mute. She felt no sorrow, only joy. This extremely abnormal behavior was her only way of protesting. It was a celebration of her newfound freedom and the mountain cries she had buried in her heart for years. After the funeral, the village officials gathered everyone again to discuss the details of the compensation. Han, looking impatient, wanted to settle it once and for all, fearing Hong Xia would latch on to him and prevent him from finding a wife.
Finding a wife? You still have the nerve to talk about finding a wife. The poor widow is devastated and all you think about is finding a wife.
The quarrel between the father and son made the silent Hong Xia laugh, and that crisp laughter stunned everyone present. When the village official asked how much compensation she wanted, She wrote only 2 words. Nothing, no matter how much the village officials tried to persuade her. She stubbornly wrote it over and over. Nothing. Her eyes were firm and resolute. Everyone thought Hongxie had lost her mind. Eventually, they drafted an agreement since Hongxie could not decide on the compensation. Han Chong would temporarily be responsible for providing for the family of 3 and taking care of their daily needs, including their 3 meals a day. Until Hongxie decided on the final compensation amount, Han Chong grew anxious. If she never made a decision, wouldn't he be trapped for the rest of his life? But before he could finish protesting, Hongxie had already signed. She put the agreement away and left in silence. This agreement is both the turning point and the heart of the whole story. It seemed like a temporary fix devised by the village cadres to keep the peace. But in reality, it was Hongxie's deliberate choice. Why didn't she want the money? Hongxie saw it more clearly than anyone. Cash is a one-time thing. But the agreement for Han Chong to provide for her and her children's daily meals is a long-term meal ticket and, more importantly, a protective amulet. In this insular rural society, this relationship gave her a natural layer of protection. Any villager looking to bully her would now have to answer to Han Chong. She gave up immediate gain to firmly secure the very foundation of her survival. This isn't madness, it is the sharpest wisdom honed by years of suffering.